Right. Grammatical categories on the one hand. I have been doing some more research and reading and more development in the field of EFL and ELT also. So I'm trying to merge both of them. That's one of the things that I've been working on in these years. At the moment, I'm doing the Trinity diploma in TESOL. So I think that will give me the basis and the groundwork to find the middle ground between linguistics and ELT. So that's something short about me.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for introducing yourself, and it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much. I haven't been to a conference about a year, so this is a good refreshment for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Zarate, please introduce yourself.
All right, so again, I'm John Joseph Zarate. I am one of the faculty members of Pangasinan State University Bayambang campus, which is actually the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education in the Philippines. And I am actually involved in many researches, particularly in the Food and Innovation Center research, because our campus holds one of the centers for food and innovation. I am currently handling subjects related to science, technology, and society. I have been an ESL teacher, an English teacher as well. I've heard Ma'am Anita said it earlier. So I've been an English teacher to some schools as well. Right now, I've been involved in many researches, particularly in one of the researchers in the Department of Agriculture in our country, because we're trying to answer most of the problems in food shortages. So we're trying to do a lot of researches related to that. So I'm actually excited to be a part of this research conference, and I hope to learn a lot of things from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, doctor. And actually, Dr. Zarate, you are associated with us for years now.
Yes,
it's an honor
to
have you here.
Thank you.
Okay. Shang, please introduce yourself. You, Shang Sang, please introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yuquan Zheng from Taiwan. Very happy to be here to share my research. I major in learning science and technology and looking for a good conference today. Thank you.
Okay. Firman, Sir Firman, am I audible to you? Maybe he's facing some technical glitches. We'll start with the conference now. We have these many participants associated with us for the conference. Welcome to Eurasia Research Online Live International Conference. Today we have presentations and participants from 11 countries around the world: Philippines, UK, Iran, Mongolia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macedonia, Sri Lanka, USA, India, and Indonesia. We are even broadcasting this conference on Facebook Live on multiple pages of Eurasia Research, and the links for the live sessions are shared in the chat box. Please allow me a moment to introduce Eurasia Research to you in a nutshell. With over more than 1 million satisfied members and associates spread across the globe, Eurasia Research is a scholarly association who have been working for nearly a decade. Eurasia Research has organized several successful international conferences, workshops, and training programs at various reputed institutions and grand venues. Eurasia has been tirelessly working for research world and have not stopped their endeavors even during COVID era, and have presented research community with online platform, which was safe and convenient method to continue their passion. Teaching and Education Research Association TERA is an international community of researchers, practitioners, students, and educationals for the development and spread of ideas in the field of teaching and education. TERA is promoted by Eurasia Research. TERA aims to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals, encourage intellectual development, and create opportunities for networking and collaboration. These objectives are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, research publications, academic awards, and scholarships. The driving force behind this association is its diverse members and advisory board who provide inspiration, ideas, efforts, and drive collaborations. Scholars, researchers, professionals are invited to become a member of TERA and join this ever-growing network, working for benefit of society and research with the spirit of sharing and mutual growth. Our conferences are organized in several countries that includes London, Amsterdam, Paris, Singapore, Bali, Barcelona, etc. You may check our website for more information. We organize conferences on regular basis in hybrid mode, that is online and offline. You can fill out the online application form and we will issue you an invitation letter for respective conference. You may check the conference fees and complete the registration process from this tab. The themes that we cover in our TERA Association are blended education, business education, contemporary issues in education, curriculum, distance education, educational leadership, e-learning, educational psychology, early education, etc. We are an international community of researchers, practitioners, students, and educationals who aim to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals, encourage intellectual development, and to create opportunities for networking and collaboration. These objectives are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, research publications, academic awards, and scholarship. We provide scholarship to deserving candidates to promote students and research scholars to participate in the international conference. Young researcher scholarship is provided in the form of a full registration fee waiver. We have vast experience of publishing papers for more than 7 years. Our associated journals publish original papers, review papers, conceptual framework, analytical and simulation models, case studies, empirical research, technical notes, and book reviews. We cater to more than 30 plus themes in the area of teaching and education and have registered ISSN and have following renowned indexing: Google Scholar, Crosscheck, Authenticate, Crossref, the Keeper's Registry, Script, Portico, Road, OAI PMH Registered Data Provider, PKP Index. We will soon be applying for Scoopers too. We have a wide network of 100 plus internationally acclaimed keynotes across the globe who share their knowledge and guidance with our participants with open hands. We also have a large number of committee members and advisors who support us and guide us through their expert opinions and decision-making capabilities. We could not have thought of reaching here without them. We also encourage our participants to connect with more than 15K plus followers on our social media platform where they can share their research and interests. Join our Facebook group and be a part of the discussions by researchers and academicians. Recently, we have successfully conducted a physical conference in London. Here are some pictures of our London conference. We also have several collaborations with universities, colleges, and institutes to better serve all interested and like-minded intellectuals. Fellow Program in Education of Teaching and Education Research Association, TERA. This program offers an opportunity to learn the key concepts and latest trends in the teaching industry from the stalwarts in industry. The applicant would be honored with a certificate of fellowship by the program coordinator. The fellows of TERA would receive international recognition and visibility amongst the global teaching fraternity. This program is designed to help to teach professionals to acquire, develop, and master the qualities of effective teaching, specifically relating to building human relationships, working with diverse learners, and using instructional technology effectively. This program creates a global community of professional teachers who are nurtured by the best in the teaching industry from various institutions and countries. This program also gives us a global advantage. We have also launched a free of cost for members of Teaching and Education Summit for all researchers, practitioners, students, and educationists. Till now, we have conducted 3 summits successfully, and the 4th TERA Summit will be conducted on 16 August. I would request each of you to please rename your Zoom accounts with your original and full name. This will even help us to record your presence. Moving ahead with our conference. I am your host for today's conference, Sakshi Tolambia. Our TERA President, Lynn Selly, she has done PhD and the Dean of Graduate and Professional Studies from LaSalle University, Newton, MAUS. Let's have a few words from her.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lynn Shelley, and I'm the Dean of Graduate and Professional Studies at LaSalle University in Newton, Massachusetts, United States of America. I'm proud to be coming to you and bringing you this video on behalf of Eurasia Research and TERA, Teaching and Education Research Association. I have been a privileged member of this association for many years. As a participant, as a speaker, as a keynote speaker, as a peer reviewer, as the president of the advisory board. I'm here to welcome you and encourage you to participate in this wonderful organization. Membership has its privileges for this organization. You meet wonderful, diverse people from all over the world that bring new and creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial perspectives in teaching and educational research. TERA is a wonderful place to be. As a participant, I encourage you to join and become a member. I also encourage you to submit proposals to do breakout sessions. They are the most valuable and rewarding professional experience you could ever have. As importantly, Eurasia TERA does organize their conferences, both virtual and in person, in such a way where you get to know people personally, know their work, know their research, and get to know them as people, which is most important in our business, relationships. It has expanded my horizons, expanded my professional growth and development, and I continue to look forward to being part of this wonderful organization. Part of attending a conference in person, whether you're a participant or you're an observer, you get to interface and interact on social levels as well as academic levels with everyone involved. We stay in touch after conferences. We share research. We help one another become better at what we do, become better in our educational professions, become better in our research. Again, membership has its privileges. The networking is amazing. Expanding your skill set is amazing. It keeps you in the growth mindset, which we always should be in as educators. And every conference, as I said, has a variety of perspectives that it brings for every person in attendance, no matter what role you have. You will find many pearls of wisdom that you can bring back to your own work and apply immediately. So I encourage you to get in touch with me if you wish at Lynne, LYNNECELLI @gmail.com with any questions. And I also encourage you to visit the website so that you may be able to see exactly not only the professional growth we have, but such fun we have with the relationship building. I look forward to seeing you at another conference and a new conference, and hopefully meeting you personally and professionally.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lynn, for your wonderful message of association. Moving ahead with our conference, we have some chat sessions with our past conferences, participants, and eminent speakers. We have one of them, Dr. Hilda Habakan Isioshe from Lijarka, St. Junction, Meondon, Los Benos, Laguna. Let's have what she has to say for us.
Sioche. I am a single mom, a mother of 3 adorable kids, and I'm teaching for more than 13 years now. My inspiration is, of course, from our God Almighty, because all of us are experiencing a lot of things, and it just vary from one person to another. But furthermore, other than that, we are all experiencing tough times, especially this past few years because of the pandemic. So actually, the motivation for me is the problem we are facing. Because I feel motivated because I'm struggling on how to teach my children, my students, because we cannot meet them. They are also struggling with the internet connection. And most of my students doesn't have parents to support them or to guide them while they are studying, because most of the parents are working and some even lose their jobs. So some of the children need to work also to help the family surpass this situation. So what we did is we actually think of ways on how to reach them. I think attending online conferences is better than the physical one, because the participants may attend even though they are far from each other, and it's less expensive. I mean, it saves money, it saves time and effort, and at the same time, we have the chance to get to know more researcher and those who are starting. And it's a great privilege for us to a newbie, a new researcher like me, because if this is not online, I don't think I can join because of course, the financial aspect should be considered as well. And joining here is the best experience I had during my studies, and it is actually something very, what do you call that, eminent experience, because I get to learn about other researches and how others conduct their research, and I also learn from other participants as well.
Conference.
Actually, I am already encouraging most of my friends. Whenever they are asking me about conferences, I always suggest Eurasia.
Thank you so
Because
much, ma'am.
I always tell them that they are very supportive. They're actually going to help you from start to finish. And they will not stop until you've published your work, until it's polished. Because of course, as a researcher, when you are doing it, the flow of idea, you should, you should write it all down before you consider other aspects. Because in writing, if you consider grammar while you are writing, you might be distracted. You might lose that idea you have in mind. So Eurasia helped me with that. They also helped me polishing my work, and they assisted me all the way until I finished. And during the presentation, they were very accommodating, and all the people here are really friendly. You won't feel you are outcast or you don't belong. You will always feel that you're one of them, even though you're new here or you don't have any experience. Because I joined here, I don't have any experience joining conference. I haven't experienced presenting my work. So it was my first time, but I didn't feel I'm a nobody. They made me feel like I'm someone really eminent, despite the fact that I haven't started speaking. So it's really a good experience, and I really, I really don't know what else to say to thank them, because they actually helped me to become a good speaker.
I'm from Dharan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hilda. We have our next eminent speaker, Mr. Sanjeev Bhantava from Seon School, Dharan, Nepal. Let's have a look at his chat session.
It is a small city in the eastern part of Nepal. It's almost more than 2 decades that I'm involved in the field of education. Initially, I started as a teacher, as a language instructor, then as a teacher, then eventually as an administrator. So currently I'm working as a principal. We call it principal here in our country, from playgroup to class 12. The school name is Seon School, and we have around 800 plus students. Okay. So you can say that I'm a teacher, I'm a principal. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Wow, it was, as I also already wrote to our sir, it was one of the best conference I ever attended. Okay, sir. Well, so our pleasure. Yeah, the tiresome journey and all those things are there to consider. However, it was really, I would say, I just said, one of the best. And the way we interacted, the way, let's say, our sir lead us in the session, and to listen the speakers from diverse background to get the information about their research field. It was just awesome. Yeah, yeah. So did you? Oh yes, I definitely recommend, because attending online conferences or online classes, and if you manage your time well, I think you can, you are on the step, unstoppable. Now, I will also just want to share on this platform. I attended almost 2 months of online leadership training. I mean, our graduation just was 2 weeks ago. Number one, I could not attend that particular leadership training when I was in the UK because of different time zones. And after arriving here, I just attended 7 days of principals training online right here. And yesterday was the graduation. So this is the advantage, you know, and obviously the time of our conferences or our training was after the office hours. So what I meant to say is just within these 3 months, it's not only just the certification, but I would say the continuous, you know, professional development, CPD. And it was really very, you know, like I would say informative, practical, and very resourceful, you know, personalities shared their, they were there as speakers. So definitely attending online conferences or online classes, meetings, if you manage your time well, I think you can go far ahead of where you are. Be it, you may be a student, you may be a teacher, you may be even a scholar or professor or any profession, because let me end it this way, never stop learning, because life will never stop teaching.
Yes.
It could be any field. Thank you. Yes, I think, yes, I definitely give, I would say, if I have to rate 10 out of 10, because the communication and then even the, let's say, the settings, the contents, the speakers that were there back in London, the Eurasia, it was really, I mean, I already mentioned it was very one of the best conferences. So overall, the speakers, the way that we were brought together, although from diverse background, we were able to, you know, interact, and that session, that seminar itself was very fruitful for me. So I will always, you know, that will always be part of my, let's say, learning experience, and also the way that I share. I always share to my friends and colleagues also. Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev. Moving ahead with our conference. Today's conference schedule is we have today, first session is our keynote talk. Session 2, we have team activity and photo session. Session 3, we have our technical talk. I would again request you all to rename your Zoom account with your full name in English. This will help us to record your presence. You may ask your questions related to the presentation in the chat section while the presentations are going on. All the certificates, receipts, and proceedings will be sent to the participants within a week on their mail IDs. Moving ahead with the publication process. The publication process starts once the registration process is complete. The author needs to send their papers, consent forms, and reviewer details on the email ID convener@eurasiaresearch.info. The review reports will be sent to the author once the review process is over. The final stage of publication starts after receiving the revised papers from the authors. Please note that the publication process takes around 50 days after the conference dates if all the editorial guidelines are followed within the given deadlines. Moving ahead with our conference, we have our first keynote speaker of the day, Dr. John Joseph Zarate, faculty member, Pangasinan State University from Bayambang campus. He is coordinator from Public Relations, Publications and Information Office, PSUBC, Research Focal Person, General Education Department from Philippines. His topic of research is teaching and education learning frameworks in technology enhanced flexible learning. Dr. John is an alumnus of Pangasinan State University, Bayambang campus, and graduated magna cum laude in the degree Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Biological Science. Among his significant accomplishments during his undergraduate years but the first PSUN to be awarded the most coveted 2019 Jose Rizal Model of the Philippines, merit proficiency in biological sciences, merit in proficiency in professional education, 2020 Governor Amado's Leadership Excellence Award. He's scholar from Twin College Envoy Program, Shiba University, Shiba, Japan, and SEA Teachers Exchange Student, Universitas Lampang Bandar, Lempong, Indonesia, among others. He took his Master of Arts in Education major in Science at Pangasinan State University School of Advanced Studies. Mr. Zarate is one of the faculty members of Pangasinan State University, Bayambang campus, under the General Education Department, of which he is also the research focal person. He plays a significant role in Bayambang campus, being the coordinator of the Public Relations, Publications, and Information Office. He is a former National Association President of the Philippine Association of Pre-Service Teachers, PAPSAT, former National President, Philippine Consortium for Science, Mathematics, and Technology, and current member of the Philippine Association of Research Practitioners, Educators, and Statistical Software Users. Let's have a look at his presentation.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers of the ICTEL 2022 for inviting me to be one of your speakers. I am very much humbled and glad to be part of this prestigious event. Moving on with my topic, flexible learning is a critical strategy for increasing access to higher education, especially due to the aftermath of the pandemic, particularly as worldwide enrollments are expected to double by 2025, according to Mathlin. It involves choice in how, what, when, and where individuals, particularly learners, learn the pace, place, and mode of delivery, according to Higher Education Academy in 2015. It is for this reason that I would like to share the topic, Teaching and Learning Frameworks in Technology-Enhanced Flexible Learning. It is my fervent hope that after this lesson, or this topic, you will be able to describe the different flexible integration models that may be applied online, in hybrid and limited face-to-face learning environments, particularly in your respective institutions, and explore the major frameworks that guide teachers for digital age teaching and learning, specifically in the areas of domain expertise needed for the 21st century teaching and learning, establishing and facilitating meaningful online experiences among the community of learners, designing learning experiences that target higher order thinking skills, levels of technology adoption that guide technology-rich learning experiences, and developing learning opportunities that meet the needs of diverse learners. Now, in distance education, teachers and students are in different places for all or most of the time that they teach, train, and learn. This is the reason why remote learning occurs when the learner and instructor or source of information are separated by distance and cannot meet in a traditional classroom setting, which happened during the pandemic. As you can see on the screen, there's a separation of teachers and students because of distance education brought by the pandemic. And of course, this led many institutions to different institutional accreditation for official recognition of studies, etc. And the use of mixed media, which include different resources like print or textbook, radio, audio, television, computer-based for offline, and different online resources. Furthermore, aside from distance education, we also have open education, which provides distance education with emphasis on flexibility and student-centeredness, and flexible education, which gives learners choice in the medium, the path, the place of study, and the methods of assessment for their entry or exit points. Now, I would like to first start discussing or sharing the contextual modalities for flexible, safe, and inclusive quality education. In the Philippines, in order to adjust and adapt to the shift in education brought by the pandemic, flexibility in education in the Philippines was birthed. Distance learning is a way of educating students online. Lectures and learning materials are sent over the internet where students work from home and not in the classroom. There are many excellent benefits of distance learning, and the three common modalities used in this learning in the Philippines include the modular distance learning, the online distance learning, and TV radio-based instruction. Now, aside from flexible learning, or aside from distance learning, there are two other learning modalities used during the onset of pandemic in our country. We have the blended learning and homeschooling. Blended learning, also known as hybrid learning, is a method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor-led classroom activities, giving students more flexibility to customize their learning experiences. Homeschooling, on the other hand, is a type of a home-based learning environment managed by qualified guardians, parents, or tutors that have undergone training. In one of the biggest news agency in the Philippines, it was broadcasted that CHED, or the Commission on Higher Education, wants universities, colleges to train teachers on the conduct of flexible learning. According to the Commission on Higher Education Chairman Prospero de Vera III, flexible learning should not be limited to online classes or activities. Among the other activities that he suggested are take-home exercises and educational packets. Now, there are different modalities in the conduct of flexible learning. Of course, we have the asynchronous classes or the offline classes and the online classes or the synchronous classes, which brought the blended learning or which constitutes the blended learning. Now, let me now share the different modalities in the implementation of flexible teaching and learning. The first component that I would like to focus on is technology. Now, for offline, of course, we make use of the printed modules, audio tapes, videotapes, CDs, storage devices, learning packets. We also make use of television or radio broadcasting networks. The Department of Education in the Philippines, which is assigned or which is responsible for the basic education in our country, organized a broadcast of lessons where teachers create a show which is presented on television and radio. And of course, we had a different learning management system, whether portable or cloud. For the blended learning, of course, we make use of desktop computer, laptops, smartphones, and mobile applications. If virtual or collaborative learning is to be implemented, we make use of the learning management systems. Of course, we still make use of the different offline instructions or materials. Then for online, we almost similarly use the same, the desktop computer, laptop, smartphones, mobile applications, learning packets, and the different learning management system. In our institution, in our university, the learning management system that we use is Microsoft Teams. Now, according to the presentation of Dr. Juan Robertino Macalde from Simeo Inotech, during the Simeo Inotech Flexible Learning Management Systems, which was conducted on a joint webinar by CHED and Simeo on May 22, 2020, he presented different categories of technology. We have the high level, the medium level, and the low level technology. Now, for the high level, mostly the available devices includes laptops, mobile phones, tablets, and desktops, which means that all these gadgets are available, if you're in the high level technology. Whereas if you're in the low-level technology, some students make use of some mobile phones that are of low specs, and some has no technology at all. For the internet connectivity, of course, we can expect high speed for high-level technology, whereas for poor or no internet connection for the low-level technology. For the level of digital literacy, it's proficient for high-level technology, and for the low-level technology, it's beginner level. For the approaches, For high-level technology, we make use of the online learning or blended learning technology. For the medium-level technology, we make use of the macro and the micro learning approach, a mix of online and offline activities. And for the low-level technology, we make use of self-instructional modules, mostly offline activities like modular activities. All right. Now, for the second component, the content learning materials or the learning objects or the learning objectives, for offline, we still make use of printed or electronic modules, the video, audio, podcast, webcast, OERs in storage devices. We also make use of printed or electronic modules, video, audio, podcasts, and webcasts of OERs for blended learning. And for online, of course, we make use almost all of it, including mainly the use of internet-based technology, modules, and the like. Another component is for evaluation and assessment, both formative and assessment or summative assessment. For offline, we proctored non-conventional assessment. We also conduct performance-based assessment like portfolio making, research papers, video recordings, student reports, and laboratory reports. For project-based or task-based assessment, we make use of different rubrics to cater to this different assessment types. For blended learning, we have performance-based assessments, which includes e-portfolio or portfolio, research papers, automated exams with pooled bank questions, video recorded student reports, and laboratory reports. Again, we still make use of the different rubrics for the project-based or task-based assessment and the use of adaptive testing. Whereas for online, we make use of the different performance-based assessment, which are conducted mostly online, and of course, still the use of different rubrics. Now, on the next slide, you will see the generations of distance education. We have 5 generations of distance education. For the first generation, this is just a single medium print or correspondence. And for the second generation, of course, now we make use of radio and television broadcastings where teachers teach the lessons through this broadcast, whether in radio or television. For combined correspondence assisted by broadcasting, that is for the third generation. And for the fourth and fifth generation, we make use of online delivery and telelearning or interactive audio and video conferencing. Next, I would like to focus now on the e-learning. The learning system based on formalized teaching, but with the help of electronic resources, of course, known as e-learning. While teaching can be based in or out of the classroom, the use of computers and the internet forms the major components of e-learning. Now, under e-learning comes 2 types. We have the blended learning, also known as the hybrid learning, is a method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor-led experiences. Whereas for web-based or online instruction, it includes, of course, the online course content. Discussion forums via email, video conferencing, and live lectures or video streaming are all possible through the web. And web-based courses may also provide static pages, such as printed course materials. Now, e-learning involves learning experiences conducted utilizing via electronic media, as I have mentioned earlier. And as you can see on the screen, I will now be focusing on the e-learning spectrum. We will answer the question, what does e-learning look like? Okay. Now, from face-to-face, we have shifted to online learning during the pre-pandemic. Now, as you can see, during the face-to-face, there is minimal or minimum online learning, or there's a minimum use of online learning. And as we shift to hybrid or blended learning to fully online learning because of the pandemic, there is an increase in the percentage of the use of online materials. Now, a flipped classroom is structured around the idea that lecture or direct instruction is not the best use of class time. Instead, students encounter information before class, freeing class time for activities that involve higher order thinking skills. So despite the shift in the learning modality, we still need to make sure that students learn efficiently and effectively. And of course, this is through the through the maximization or maximization of their higher order thinking skills. Now, brick and mortar education refers to education that occurs at a physical school as opposed to virtual or cyber school environment. And before the pandemic came, we make use of the brick and mortar method. This includes the traditional instruction and some technology-rich instruction. But as we shifted to online learning, we make use of informal online learning to full-time online learning. Now, online learning is defined as learning experiences in synchronous or asynchronous environments using devices, whether mobile phones or laptops, with internet access in this environment. Students can be anywhere, and they can be independent, of course, to learn and interact with instructions and other students. Then, because of the shift in education, we came up with a blended learning to cater the needs of our students because we have diverse students and they have diverse needs. Of course, we came up with the rotation model, the flex model, the self-blended model, and enriched virtual model. Now, as you can see in the post-pandemic, this is a course models at a glance. Now, from the brick and mortar to virtual learning environment, we now moved to hybrid, high flex, and even fully online learning. So this will continue to progress depending on the situations of the pandemic or of the COVID-19 cases in our places. But as of the moment in our country and our institution, we make use of fully online, high flex, and hybrid learning in order to teach our students and assess our learners. Now, for the high flex learning, if you're familiar with high flex learning, high flex combines the terms hybrid and flexible. Therefore, hybrid learning refers to learning that integrates complementary face-to-face, which is the synchronous, and online, which is asynchronous experiences in service of intended learning objectives. All right, so this time I would like to focus on the teaching and learning frameworks in technology.
Sorry for technical glitches.
We have the different approaches, strategies, teaching methods, and techniques that we can use during and at the post-pandemic. And for the content, this includes the teacher's ability or what the teachers know, which is primarily essential in teaching. Now, For the next model that I would like to share, it would be the SAMR model, which depicts the levels of technology adoption that guide technology-rich learning experience. Now, the SAMR model basically helps a teacher answer the following questions. What am I teaching? If you're a teacher, you should ask yourself, what am I teaching? How will I teach it? Who am I teaching? And how will I know if the students understand? Now, the SAMR model is essentially a planning tool that helps to design better learning activities for students. The framework provides pedagogical insight into how technology can and should be used in the classroom. According to Ruben Fuentedura, the difference between augmentation and modification is whether you're essentially reproducing what you were doing before in your practice and you're significantly modified. Now, as you can see in the SIMR model, S stands for substitution. Substitution is where technology acts as a direct tool or substitute with no functional change. For augmentation, this is where technology acts as a direct tool substitute with functional improvement. And for substitution and augmentation, this plays the role of enhancing learning and teaching. Now, for modification, technology allows for significant task redesign. Remember, as I've mentioned earlier, the SAMR model is a planning tool that helps to design better learning activities for students. So, for modification, technology allows for significant task redesign. After careful assessment in the substitution and the augmentation level, and if you can see that there's a need for improvement or redesigning, there's a need for modification. And for the last stage, redefinition, technology allows for the creation of new tasks, previously inconceivable. Redefinition and modification falls under the transformational stage, wherein the learners are expected to embrace transformative learning experiences. Now, if we could recall Bloom's taxonomy, the KKASE, we can recall that the last remaining stages in Bloom's taxonomy, creating, evaluating, and analyzing, this falls in the redefinition and modification stage at the SAMR model. Again, this levels, the redefinition and modification levels, will allow students to not just significantly redesign and create and evaluate, but they will also be given an opportunity to analyze certain tasks and even create new as to the need arises. Now, here are some questions to ask for learning design of a classroom task. For the substitution, what will I gain by replacing tasks with a new technology? So let us always ask this question before incorporating an application or whatever simulation activities online we find. What will I gain by replacing the task with new technology? For augmentation, does the tech add new features that improves the task? For modification, does the task significantly change with the use of technology? And for redefinition, does technology allow for creation of new tasks previously unconceivable? All right, so here are some of the applications that are found on Apple and different softwares or different gadgets that you can use and incorporate in the learning of our students. So I hope you can just familiarize yourself with these different apps and try it in your own classrooms. Okay, lastly, I would like to share with you the community of inquiry, establishing and facilitating meaningful online experiences among community of learners. The presence in online instruction is an approach whereby learning is socially shared. This is a path to a meaningful, systematic, and worthwhile educational experience, according to Garrison, Anderson, and Archer. Whereas Garrison and Ballman mentioned in 2008 that the presence in online instruction is an approach that creates a meaningful, systematic, and worthwhile education experience. All right, so through the design of your online course, facilitation of this course and direct instruction, we are able to establish our teaching presence. Now, as you can see on the next slide, here are some of the teaching presence components. For instructional design and organization, we need to set the curriculum, design methods, establish time parameters, utilize the medium effectively, and establish etiquette. For direct instruction, we have to present content and questions, focusing the discussion, summarizing the discussion, confirming understanding, diagnosing misperceptions, injecting knowledge from diverse resources, and responding to technical concerns. For facilitating this course, we need to identify areas of agreement and disagreement. Remember, as facilitators, we don't act as sage on the stage, but we help learners think critically and creatively in our classrooms. Now, we need to seek to reach consensus and understandings in different areas, in our topics and in our subjects. And we need to encourage, acknowledge, and reinforce the student contribution, as well as set the climate for learning. We need to draw in participants, prompting discussions and interaction, and assessing the efficacy of the process. Now, the social presence model identifies 5 key factors that help maximize online learning experiences and engagement. We have the affective association, community cohesion, interaction intensity, knowledge and experience, and instructor investment. Each plays a key role in creating a social presence among students. For effective association, according to Garrett, this is how students and teachers show emotions online. For community cohesion, this is seeing the class as a community. So we need to work as one, we need to communicate, we need to collaborate. For interaction intensity, this shows what ways and how often students interact. We need to create a healthy, fruitful environment where students can freely interact and share their knowledge, their opinions, and even their own experiences. For knowledge and experience, this is a way students share their prior knowledge and experience with course content. And instructor investment is how the teacher shows involvement in students' learning. Now, in order to enhance the instructional presence, particularly at the time of pandemic, we can make use of different videos to enhance each area. Now, as you can see in the cognitive presence, we create meaning through communication. You can have discussion videos, assignment videos, or direct instruction videos. For teaching presence, we can have direct instruction videos. We can pre-record our videos and share it to them. And we can also ask our students to create feedback videos. Whereas for the social presence, we can have announcement videos, reminder videos, or supplementary info videos. I remember when I was teaching science, technology, and society during this semester, we created a short film festival for our students to not just depict and show what they have learned in the different topics and areas in science, technology, and society as a subject, but we are able to link the topic to the different community problems and create a short film, which enables the learners to fully evaluate their learning, analyze the situations in their community, apply what they have learned in the topic or the subject, and at the same time create a community awareness for this particular topic. So I hope you can also make use of these videos or different strategies in order for you to forge your instructional presence. So thank you very much for listening and for joining me in the discussion of the teaching and learning frameworks in technology enhanced flexible learning. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Zarate. It was such a lovely presentation. Do you want to say anything regarding your presentation?
First and foremost, I would like to emphasize that as time passes by and as we face different challenges brought by the pandemic and other factors, we need to constantly as teachers, and we need to put into practice whatever models or approaches that we have in order to best serve our students. So I hope the presentation enlightened our educators and our participants in the best possible way. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Anybody having any questions related to his presentation may leave in the chat section, and surely Doctor will answer them. Moving ahead with our conference. I would welcome all the listeners for today's conference. Mr. Margaret Jamal Dodge, Jill Keller, Ivan Keller, and Ganbat Batumbor. Okay, let's proceed towards our team building activity. Sometimes we miss the opportunity of connection and linkage with fellow participants of the conference. This team activity is to encourage interaction among all the participants. One by one, we will share the views and solutions on the topic of discussion, and also we'll be conducting a photo session during the same. I would request each of you to please turn on your cameras. And today's topic of discussion is how stress affects your brain. Video credit goes to TED Talks. Let's have a look at the video.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news, though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
Okay, so it was actually very interesting presentation. One by one, I would request you all to please share your views on the topic. Anita, ma'am, please turn on your camera. Melani, please turn on your camera. Thank you everybody. Okay, we'll start with Dr. John. Views on the topic, sir.
Right. So first and foremost, I would like to let everyone understand that the way we handle or the way we respond to stress differ from individual to individual because we have our own unique way of handling stress. Now, I think in the video it was already mentioned that our brain has a fight or flight system. I remember when I was studying for my undergrad in the subject anatomy and physiology, we were able to discuss the part of the brain that releases the fight or flight hormone, and that is the amygdala, which is known as the fight or flight system. Now, what I want to point out here is that stress per se is not at all negative because it actually energizes our neurons to function. However, with chronic stress, that's where the problem enters. So we need to be very careful. We need to understand ourselves on how we deal with different stressors. And most and foremost, we need to identify the stressors that we have in our life. Because the moment we understand the stressors that we have, that's the time we can deal with them effectively. Now, on top of what the effects of stress or chronic stress could give us is that research has found out that stress can actually shrink our brain. It can actually shrink a part of our brain that's related to emotions, to memory, at the same time metabolism. So it's very important to deal with stress effectively. And as individuals, we need to understand ourselves more in order to cater or cope with stress effectively. That's all on my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. John. Anita, ma'am, your views?
I'd just like to add something to my colleague. I agree with the part that there is something called maybe positive and negative stress. So not all stress, I think, is bad. Maybe it just has a bad reputation in a way. But I agree that up to a point it can motivate you, and it can be a good motivator. But I would say overstressing, just like overworking, is not good at all. One word that came to mind and that I think is used and has been used a lot in just in articles that I read from The Guardian, especially BBC, is burnout. So I think burnout is nowadays, especially with online working, we sometimes take on more than we think we can do. And we get to a point in which we're extremely stressed and just exhausted and constantly feeling of constant stress, constantly thinking that you have something to do or you're under pressure. So I would just like to link this with burnout, because I've been reading a lot about it recently. And I'm trying not to get myself in that situation, just trying to balance life and work in a way. And like weekends are the time when I try not to do as much work as I normally did. So I'd just like to add that burnout nowadays is something that when I talk to my colleagues, we're on the same wavelength. So we have to be careful not to go to that stage.
Thank you, ma'am. Milani, ma'am, your views?
Hi, I think I can relate much to Anita as well, because I have been recently in the work from home setting for quite a long time. So I think after pandemic, so she really related that to burnout, and it's true that we have to be really mindful about what's the tipping limit. So if it's a cup, and then if you're putting the water into it, so you really have to know like what's your tipping point. So it varies from person to person. So for one person the stress can be different, and for the other person it's not a stress, so they handle it differently. So as John mentioned also, like we get stress both emotionally and physically as well. So if want to find out whether they are stressed or not, they really can look into the symptoms that we see. Like it can be like panic attacks, and then fatigue, and also like you may have like body aches and pains, and all these things are there. So it's just we have to be mindful whether it's been a positive stress for us or a negative stress for us. And also there are different things that we could to avoid, because we cannot avoid stress. It's part and parcel of life. So the best way to move ahead is to find a way to overcome your stress and maybe be more resilient about it, or to find out your way of easing it out. Maybe it can be a hobby, or like 1 minute, 2 minute walk, or something that suits each one of you. So um, I agree with both of them, but I also want to highlight that like we as people, we have to be mindful about creating stress for others as well, and we have to be mindful about our activities, as well as we have to be mindful about the external factors that affects us. So that's my 2 cents about it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sheng, your views, please.
Okay, about this topic, I don't have much research into how stress affects the brain. So I share what I know from my experience. According to the information I have compiled, stress is mainly through the release of certain neurotransmitters and the simultaneous inhibitor of serotonin and dopamine to make our mood down and tense. So excess and long-term stress will be harmful to our physical and mental health. But the right amount of stress can push us toward our goals and have the opportunity to improve our efficiency and performance and work in school or in every aspect of life. For example, cognitive load that is often here in education is a type of stress. Too much or too little is not conducive to learn. And stress is also an incentive element in the learning process. Although stress is one of the reasons that affect the effect on learning, and the result is not necessarily positive or negative. But stress is the main trigger for student learning by affecting the individual's thinking through stress and acting according based on their own experience. I think the awareness to take the first step before engaging in any activity is often the most important, regardless of the outcome. So my conclusion is that stress can change people's thinking pattern, and most of them are by changing certain neurological substance in the brain. But what kind of actions will follow is still related to their own growth environment. Yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheng. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your views on the topic. We'll move ahead with our conference. Our first presenter of the day, Jason McWaugh from Management School, University of Liverpool, from Liverpool, UK. His topic of research is student groups and cohorts, an extension of integrated skills education for undergraduates and analysis of program outcomes. Mr. Jason was unable to join us due to some prior engagements. So we'll move ahead with our conference. We have our next presenter for the day, Mohsin Rabari, from Islamic Azad University Science and Research Branch from Iran. His topic of research is designing a comprehensive model for evaluating the effectiveness of gamification projects with application in online education. His abstract is on the screen. Mr. Mohsin is also facing some technical glitches due to which he cannot join us. We have a presenter for the day, Yu Shang Seng from Institute of Learning Sciences and Technology, National Tsinghua University from Hsinchu, Taiwan. His topic of research is development of an augmented reality system for learning the molecular structures of chemical compounds and calculating the coefficients of balance equations for chemical reaction. His abstract is on the screen. Let's have a look at his presentation.
Hello everyone. Today I'm very happy to be here to share my research. My name is Ict Industry and my advice is Unhua Tang. We come from Institute of Learning Science and Technologies, National Tsinghua University, Hsinchu, Taiwan. My research title is Development of an Augmented Reality System for Learning the Molecular Structures of Chemical Compounds and Calculating the Coefficient of Balance Equation for Chemical Reaction. Okay, first I want to introduce the research background. The reason I want to make this research is that there have some difficulties in traditional teaching.
Yu Sheng,
will
you be presenting live?
Yeah. So
okay,
can I
you may
restart?
share your screen. Yeah, you may share your screen and you may start presenting live.
Okay. So I share my screen.
Yeah, you can share your
Okay,
screen.
okay. Sorry. Okay, can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please enter full screen mode, okay? Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, let's start. Hello everyone. Today I'm very happy to be here to share my research. My name is Ict Industry and my advice is Unhua Tang. We come from Institute of Learning Science and Technologies, National Tsinghua University, Hsinchu, Taiwan. My research title is Development of an Augmented Reality System for learning the molecular structure of chemical compounds and calculating the coefficient of balance equation for chemical reaction. First, I want to introduce the research background. The reason I want to make this research is that there have some difficulties in traditional teaching. Like knowledge cannot be instantiated or connected to real life. Therefore, students usually have myths about abstract knowledge or knowledge that cannot be embodied, resulting in the inability to have a specific and clear understanding. And in Asia, most people are still achieving oriented. In economy, experimental process, but according to some research, the process of learning is actually important. Second, as the time goes on, the evolution of teaching strategies for science course is obvious. For example, most previous science course exploration of the experiment itself, like research, hypothesis, experiment, and conclusion. But many research start to focus on the emotion and feeling of the learner. And teach more is from one-way teaching based on the teacher to two-way interaction. Students get more opportunity to participate in learning. Nowadays, it's based on student-oriented teaching as the main teaching mode. And with the progress of the time, science and technology change repeatedly. There have many tools can assist teaching, like open course, community software, real-time feedback system, AI analysis, learning process, AR and VR conceptual enhancement. Okay, let's move on. Our purpose is to establish a car-based augmented reality system to assist students in learning chemical knowledge. Because of this traditional computational and abstract subject, very few people choose to use augmented reality to teach. This system must have the following function. First, visualize abstract concepts for AR operation, including the molecular structure and process. And second, scanning card to replace paper and pencil calculation. Third, combine with the POE teaching strategy. And through this research, we can understand the impact of different approaches on the learner efficiency of students and provide teachers with more in-depth understanding of innovative ideas in teaching chemistry by the questionnaire result. Here are my research questions. Explore the impact of two different teaching modes on learner and focus on 4 aspects of learning effect, learning motivation, cognitive load, and technology acceptance. And in this page, I will share some literature about how to design chemical teaching method and tool. And to improve student research ability, white and guns down indicate that students can follow the step of POE strategies. POE is an acronym for prediction, observation, and explanation. So repeat the above cycle. Students will be allowed to learn from cognitive conflict, thereby improving their myths. Focus on learning by doing. And second, Johnstone proposed the triangle model theory, indicated that chemical knowledge can be divided into 3 levels in learning, including macro and visual phenomena, such as color, text, and bubbles, and micro representations, such as present a visual virtual world contain molecules, ions, and their moving interaction, and symbolic representation, such as format, equation, mathematic symbol, diagram to state a reaction event. By understanding the above concept will help the learning of chemistry. Third, may indicate that multimedia learning design have some key points, include first, the complementary representation of text and image is better than the presentation of text alone. Second, excess vocabulary or music may arouse interest in learning but have no significant effect on learning. So if there is an animation, it is recommended to use narration instead of subtitle. By understanding the above 3 literature, it will help us to design a better augmented reality teaching tool. And in this page, I share some difficult points in teaching and ways for improving learning benefits. Kuzma indicated that impact of information technology on practical teaching is not all positive, but also has the possibility of being negative, and the tools suitable for different subjects are also different. Kober and Yaker also indicate that different media may eventually achieve the same effect, but there may be different learning benefits in terms of time cost. So these 2 research findings, it can be seen that the choice of information tool is very important, and not all learning topic or learner are suitable for the same information technology tool. Statistics also indicate that students' willingness to participate in learning and learning benefits have a great impact, especially when they are new to scientific knowledge. If there is no good foundation and willingness to learn, it may lead to negative growth. Therefore, it can be known that in order to increase the learning effect, whether it can induce learning motivation will be the most important key. And so how do I conduct this research? we cooperate with the Zhongxiao Midi School in Hsinchu, and we have 4 classes from 801 to 802, 100 students in total. And the teaching unit is the basic structure of chemical compound and calculation the coefficient chemical equation for chemical reaction. Control group is from 801 to 802, and experimental group are from 803 to 804. And this page shows some variable about my research. Independent variables use augmented reality as the chemistry teaching or not. And the development variable are learning performance, learning motivation, cognitive load, and technology acceptance. Control variable are teacher time, teacher content, and teacher tools. This page shows the process of our experiment. 2 groups introduce the content of the course by the teacher and first. Then the student must fill out pre-course content test paper. After that, apply different mode of teaching. When teaching is over, student must fill out post-course test paper. Finally, fill out relevant questionnaire, including learning motivation, cognitive load, and technology acceptance. But only experimental group must fill out technology acceptance questionnaire because the control group didn't use the augmented reality tool. Here is the demo video of the system. I will briefly introduce about it. And our system have 2 modes, learning mode and test mode. We demo the learning mode first. And in this mode, students mainly study 3 different forms of materials, including pure materials, compounds, and mixture. And they can click a button here or scan a card to learn the information and observe the structure of all 10 molecules, the structure and the information. And when we press the change button, we can scan the card and will show the structure and click this structure. The system will show the information. Okay, in this mode, we design 10 common reactions. We can choose the second reaction to experiment, CaCO3 and HCl. So we should put the corresponding material card, CaCO3 and HCl. And then put the coefficient card that we see should be the simplest integer ratio. The right-hand coefficient can be confined in the left corner here, 1 and 2. So we can enter this animation when we had performed the above step. We can see the corresponding amount of subtests, and this light test will show the format currently. And press the icon can run the corresponding material. When press the start button, the animation will show the effect and the process of reaction. And press the scan can detect this baker. Although students have a better view to observe. And if we replace the card of number 2 with number 4, HCl, we can find that there will be 2 more copies of HCl in the experimental process because the simplest integer ratio is 1 CaCO3 and 2 HCl. And if we replace the card of number 4 with number 1, the system will show alert because the combination doesn't meet the simple integer ratio. Okay, that's a brief demo to the system. So next is my research outcome focusing on learning effect. First, there are significant difference in the pre and post test score of the two groups of students in their represented group. Second, there is also a significant difference in the performance between the two groups, and the performance of the experimental group is better than that of the control group. If we divide students into two groups of high and low achieving according to their pre-test score, under the traditional teaching mode, there is no significant difference in the pre- and post-test performance of high-achieving students. And there is a significant difference in pre- and post-test performance for the low-achieving students. Under the technology-assisted teaching mode, there is a significant difference in the pre- and post-test performance for high-achieving and low-achieving students. So the technology-assisted teaching mode is obviously useful for both high and low achieving students, but traditional teaching mode only for low achieving students. And the next is focused on learning motivation. First, the learning motivation score of the experimental group is higher than that of the control group, but different teaching modes have no significant difference in student learning motivation according to statistical software. And to my surprise, although the low-achieving students in the experimental group made the highest progress in this experiment, their motivation score were the lowest compared to the high-achieving students. And the control group saw the learning motivation in this experiment seems to be is not the main factor that mainly affect learning outcome. This group have the lowest score. And second, there is not much difference between the two groups of students answer to the learning motivation questionnaire after completion. But the students in the experimental group are more confident about their academic achievement and significant difference from the control group. The next focus on cognitive load. First, different teaching modes have no significant difference in the cognitive load of the two groups of students. But the cognitive load score of the student in the experimental group is still higher than that of the students in the control group. And second, there is not much difference between the two groups of students' response to the cognitive load questionnaire. But the students in the experimental group have more sense of achievement in the learning process and significant difference from the control group. And if we divide the question into mainly classification of cognitive load, students in the control group feel high cognitive load on the filtration-oriented topic, and students in the experimental group feel high cognitive load on the effort-oriented topic. And focus on technology acceptance. First, the students give a visual score of 5.4 on the 7-point scale for the augmented reality supplementary teaching material applied to the learning content, which show that the acceptance of this teaching tool is high for students. Second, in the three aspects of behavior intent, perceive usefulness and perceive ease of use, the behavior intent aspect has the highest score. Second, there is no significant difference in the acceptance of this teaching mode between different genders. Fourth, there is no significant difference in the acceptance of this teaching mode among students with different achievement. And my conclusion, first, this teaching mode has a significant impact on learning outcomes, but has little impact on cognitive load and learning motivation. Second, through the augmented reality system, students can gain more confidence and achievement in the learning process. Third, the augmented reality system has a greater positive impact on low-achieving students than high-achieving students. Fourth, in the inquiry-based course with POE teaching strategy, students are more attentive and have more interaction and feedback, although the motivation to learn didn't increase significantly. Okay, thanks for your listen. And if you have any question, you can mail me or ask me. I will reply you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shang. It was indeed a wonderful presentation. Would you like to add anything to it?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody having any queries regarding to his presentation may leave in the chat section. Moving ahead with our conference. Our next presenter of the day, Anita Nomoska from Blaise Koneski Faculty of Philology, English Language and Literature Department from Cyril and Methodius University, Skopje. Her topic of research is analysis of EFL curricula in elementary education in North Macedonia. Her abstract is on the screen. Okay, so Anita ma'am, you may proceed.
Yes, hello once again. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, but I would rather like this to be more of in a way, discussion, just sharing my ideas. So I'm going to try a new format this time and not just rely, but I do have, of course, something ready. So I'm Anita Nomoska, and I chose this topic, analysis of the curricula in my country from grades 1 to 9, which is the primary education, as I was part of the team for developing those curricula. So this whole process lasted a few years, and I would just like to add, for those who are not really knowledgeable about our primary school system, that it lasts 9 years. So learners start at the age of around 6, I think 5 or 6. That's when they start grade 1, and then they finish in grade 9. So our primary school education lasts 9 years, but in the past it was 8 years. So there's an additional year 9. This actually created a bit of a problem, mostly because when we were reworking the curricula, we were reworking the previous educational system, which lasted 8 years. So there was a kind of an issue with what should we do with grade 9, and should we change the whole system from scratch, or just should we add one more level in a way? So in the context of education, the curriculum, the word curriculum versus syllabus is used generally to refer to a plan, a very general plan for learning. And we're talking here about specific educational levels and contexts. The development and also the application and implementation of a curriculum operates at a variety of levels. So we, as a working group, we were from different sectors in education. So I had colleagues that I was working with from primary education, secondary, and I was the representative of tertiary education. And all of these different levels had to interact so that we could create an effective curriculum. What we took here as a starting point to create this framework was the Common European Framework, or the CEFR, the CEFR, which is the framework which organizes the English language into levels. So that was our starting point, and we moved around that in regards to grammar, lexis or vocabulary, and any functional language. So in a way, because we wanted to have a good starting point and a foundation for educational outcomes, and also to compare educational outcomes to other European countries, we used the Common European Framework. So developing the curricula was a bit of a process in which we had to be very narrow, to narrow down our very broad objectives. And in order to do this, there were many participants involved. Aside from the teachers themselves who are going to use the curriculum in the future, we did have a lot of stakeholders. We were also working with representatives from the Ministry of Education, from the Bureau for Development of Education. So in a way, there were a lot of kind of hidden institutional constraints in a way. So although we as teachers, as practitioners, we as a working group were practitioners, and we had been in EFL for about 10 years, over 10 years, we were still a bit constrained as to, for example, people who are not teachers, who don't know the problematic issues in education, who, for example, think that grammar should be the starting point. So that was one kind of constraint that we encountered the whole time. So we kind of wanted to make the whole curriculum comprehensive and more rounded in a way, but there were constraints. There were people who kind of stopped us along the way saying, no, you should just focus a bit more on grammar. And for them, grammar seems to be the main outcome. And that is, I think, the main issue with, let's say, teachers, practitioners, and people who are included in the curriculum making process who are not practitioners. They don't know what kinds of issues there are, especially practical ones, like students. If a learner knows how to make the first conditional and knows the theory behind it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can use it effectively in functional language. So our focus was more functional language in a way, Lexis, developing of Lexis, and this was pre-pandemic time. So we didn't really have any mention of online teaching or learning. It was just, we needed to give websites for every level, for every grade, but it was it was truly focused on face-to-face learning. So one other constraint, one other in a way thing, maybe area for improvement for the next programs would be, of course, to include the online learning component. Of course, there is a lot of room for improvement. We've seen a lot of things that could have been done differently in these years, and teachers approaching the ministry saying that things could have been done a bit differently. And as I said, it wasn't totally up to us. If anybody else here has been involved in such a project, being hired by the ministry to do this, you're kind of constrained, and some of your ideas don't get to see, don't get to rise above the surface. Now, I'd just like to share one document. Yes, so I'm just taking this document. It's taken from the Council of Europe Handbook for Curriculum Development. And I'm taking this table only for you to see how much thought was involved simply in the process of writing. So we have the subcategories on the one hand, planning, constructing, communicating, all of these, thinking of these as, in a way, outcomes for students. So if a student gets to grade 9, these are the subcategories related to the skill of writing that they should be following. So when they need to write a simple piece of text, like 200 and 250 words, they need to follow this process, a process-oriented approach to writing, to planning it, drafting, constructing, communicating the main idea, and then at the end, of course, reflecting and assessing. So this could be, if you take a closer look at it, you will actually recognize the shape of all of these sentences, and they all start with can, which was another thing that we tried to focus on when creating the curriculum. We were really aware of the language that was used for teachers. So, for example, by the end of grade 9, and I'm taking grade 9 because that's a high level, let's say B1, I think B1 plus. So when constructing the sentences themselves in the curricula, we were really cautious and aware of how to use these terms. Like a student can, for example, a student can choose relevant writing strategies instead of saying must or should. And there was the choice of modal verb actually kind of makes you think of things a bit differently. So should on the one hand versus must, which is a very strict and rigid fixed form, versus can. So using can-do statements, which are which appear in the Common European Framework, these can-do statements in the descriptors for each level. That's what we were focusing on. I did not mention this earlier, but actually these programs and the curricula, they were written in Macedonian. The examples, however, were given in English, mostly because that's the official language of the territory. So I'll just like to show you what this looks like. So it's written in Cyrillic script. If anybody recognizes it, yeah, here it is. So this is just taken from one topic. We focused on general lexis as the main topic. And around that lexis, we tried to situate functional language as well as grammar. This is just for you to take a look at it. So you can actually see in the second column, that's the one with the examples in English, and then a bit of explanation in Macedonian. Which was, for me, it was a bit of a difficult task because we're used to using that kind of vocabulary. So when you say a student can speak about their habits or routines, everyday habits and routines, that is something that we use often as a phrase, an everyday routine. But in Macedonian, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would translate it literally. So sometimes we had those kinds of problems that cropped up, like how would you translate a simple term, even the term can-do statement, a can-do statement, which is a term that appears so often in the Common European Framework. It's not as easy to translate that as it is. So it has to be a bit descriptively, which it's just too long in Macedonian, and it doesn't sound so natural. So these are just some issues that we were experiencing. And just I'd like to say a couple of things regarding some principles that we followed. We actually we followed the Nation and McAllister, it's the Nation and McAllister book on language curriculum design, published in 2010, which has some very good guiding principles of not just language teaching, but also of creating curricula. So the main principle maybe for us, the leading one, was frequency, high frequency words. If we talk about lexis, we were going to cover high frequency lexis. So we were using different sources, like different corpora to gain access to which words are the frequent ones. And there is a list of around 100 most frequent words in English, words like of or the, for example, function words, which of course you can't really cover in a curriculum because you can't explain a preposition. So if I ask a student to explain of or the, they wouldn't know how to explain it, but they would know how to use it. So these were things that went through our mind when creating the curricula. Another thing is we try to integrate strategies and give examples and give suggestions for teachers to provide their students with strategies. And in the case that I explained earlier, writing strategies, for example, because you cannot always cover writing as a skill in the classroom. It's usually done for homework. What you can do in the classroom is you talk about strategies and approaches so that the student will take their time at home to write the piece of text. Another thing is that we tried spaced retrieval. We tried to space and give repeated opportunities for students over a few grades to cover, to pay attention to a specific grammar unit or lexis, or even functional language. So I'd just like to stop here because there's a whole list of language curriculum design principles, which I think these three were the main focus for us. As I said earlier, there is room for improvement, but I don't think that the programs in the curricula will change now because we did them a couple of years ago. So I'm expecting to do maybe this again in, I don't know, 10 years or something. Thank you very much. And it was very, I mean, when I was listening to my colleague earlier, to John, I found one mention, I noticed one mention of the curricula in the instructional design and organization part. So I think that teachers should work at different levels together to create an effective curricula. So that would be my conclusion for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was actually a wonderful presentation from your end and a very healthy discussion with your topic. Moving ahead with our conference. Our next presenter for the day is Ict Linda Kwan from Department of Psychology, the Education University of Hong Kong. His topic of research is evaluating the integration of world problems, world experience, and mathematical knowledge in young children. His abstract is on the screen. Let's have a look at his presentation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Kwan from the Education University of Hong Kong. My research is about evaluating the integration of world problems, world experience, and mathematical knowledge in young children. The students' age is about 7 to 9 years old. They experience difficulty in problem solving in mathematics. So we discover why such a large number of students had difficulties in solving mathematical problems and try to discover the extent of students' difficulties and the reasons for that. 27 students were studying over a period of many months, and we interviewed them face to face and also try to disclose a number of problems of math language and also understand the symptoms of the poor performance. And also try to relate mathematical problems to real life situation in class can better promote their understanding. In everyday math lesson in school, students have the ability to use some mathematical representations to solve real problems. Students do repetition of math exercise using math signs, without this leading students to an understanding of process of making sense of the problems. So,
Kaya dito ang offer at ang ano tayo.
mainly using some counting strategies, and they encounter these skills well before kindergarten, and the importance of mastering the skills at as early as possible. So the research questions will be investigate what are the difficulties children in this study had in solving mathematicals, world problems, and also how did the children make sense of the problems. Are the students able to draw down difference with the problems, or will they understand the missing amount of money cannot be greater than the cost of goods? Have they discerned that the uniqueness of a number? Or even will they notice the variation of combination of numbers? Will they pay attention to this understanding from the student's point of view instead of expecting them to use their incomplete mathematical procedural knowledge? So, the literature review in school mathematics teaching make the students joyful curiosity about how the student makes sense of the knowledge, and also the interest and success become one of the driving force for the student to learn under the game-based approach. And also there's some importance of counting. We have go through the counting fundamental importance, and also how the children make use of the counting strategies and understand how they use them. And there's some literature revealing about the counting process, the fingers used, and also the source, nursery source on counting. So we will have all this checking with the counting strategy. And also according to the variation of learning by Martin, 1981, some discernment variations are the keys for the learning of math. And also Martin pointed out students cannot see the phenomenon if they are concentrate on one part of the picture. So students need to be able to look at the whole picture before they can come to conceptual knowledge of the partial relationship. And also, Barton said the learner should learn to discern certain critical aspects in the phenomenon and focus them simultaneously. When the child understands the phenomenon, the ability to select and fully apply the procedural tools will help the child to solve the problem. And also based on facing some real-life problem makes children adjust the quantities on real-life problems, and this will motivate students to work out the problem. 27 students are studying for this research, and also they are interviewed individually, and all interviews are video recorded, and the observation were made of the students' action, behavior, and also the interaction between them. And the interview procedure, the problem was read to the students, and they were provided with picture and paper to solve. And if the student appeared not to understand, and the phrases will be with phrases, and the sentence will be repeated, and even if they are suggesting correct answer, we will try to change the quantities or make it more easier for the student to solve the problem. Like this kind of changing words and changing numbers in order to help the student to understand more, and we can check how they reply with this kind of questions. The findings. Not every child has one real life experience of handling money. So when facing work problems on money, they simply don't understand the connection happened to them in their own life. Most children cannot make sense of problems. They do not understand the work problems, the relationship between the work problems and real life experience, the relationship between the real life experience and the math knowledge, and the integration of work problems, real experience, and mathematical knowledge is one of the main research themes we are going to study in this research. We try to relate the work problem to the math knowledge, but the student failed to grasp the powerful relationship in the problem-solving situation. Our education is to prepare us for life. When we learn the basics of math, it has helped us to say the least, buy things, sell things, understand money, and financial banking, etc. But the children have little experience outside school of handling or understanding money, so they cannot solve the problem. There are different levels of ability in any classroom, and also they have different kinds of experience among the children. Perhaps they don't have the math knowledge from school to have them out, but children have not enough real life experience. Also affects their understanding of solving the math problem. Giving the children the opportunity to apply their math knowledge is very important, and some simulating real life situation in the classroom can help the children to understand and solve the problem. Experienced teachers know that it is necessary to put the responsibility for checking on the student. Checking does not really mean that they have carried out their procedure properly, but they have understood of the problems that and put them answer back to the situation of problem. It may even be important to consider a problem of same structure, but with the given value slightly changed that spots the difference. Students tend to look at the problem with blinkers. They are asked to solve the problem. They hear the problem. It was, and they know they have to use a number sentence. So they start to apply what the teacher has taught. It may be meaningless to them unless they have experience outside school. So we all make sense of problems in different ways, and children can understand and solve the problem. If the children cannot make sense of problem, it is difficult for them to think about possible procedure and how to fix the rules and solve the problem. Problems may be complicated because the child does not understand the language of math, how to translate the words into problems. Losing the sense of the problem also means losing the means of checking whether their answer is reasonable or not. The more real life situation a teacher can introduce into the classroom when teaching math, the better. In the study, it was noted that checking solution against the real life, real world situation, help students to discern mathematics relationship between the quantities in the situation. So my own experience is that students often prefer to present to the teacher with the answer. They come up and ask the teacher if they got right, but that is not very effective for learning mathematics. Teacher may wish to observe how students work and verify this answer in order to better understand their thinking. In school, they are really following a recipe. Outside the school, they really have to think and be creative. So, thank you for your listening, and these are the references.
Okay. Thank you, Hewitt. It was a good presentation. Before we move ahead with our conference, Anita ma'am, Dr. John has a question for you, and he has written in the chat section, and he would like to ask, what was the greatest challenge encountered by your team during the redesigning of the curricula, and what changes will be incorporated in line with the education in the new, sorry, I cannot read it more, in the new normal?
Yes, thank you for the question. Mostly, I think we as a team, we collaborated very well. And this was one of those rare occasions in my life in which I think working as a team, we created a very good document. But as I mentioned earlier, I think the greatest challenges were related to just convincing, persuading non-practitioners who have the final vote in the curriculum, and who need to sign the document. I think persuading non-practitioners that we know what we're doing, that we know our job, and including things that they think are not relevant. So I think that was the main issue. It wasn't us working as a team. We were on the same wavelength. Maybe some things that I, as with my university teaching experience, know I can incorporate other things that I'm really not aware of in primary teaching, for example, those colleagues incorporated. But the main issue was that some of our requests were not really heard in a way. And so I felt that that was one thing that made me not eager to work in future projects in a way, because that was the situation here. Let me just answer the second one. What changes will be incorporated? I think that what will be incorporated in the future is that online aspect of online teaching, and it kind of goes without saying that we as teachers, when we plan lessons, we plan them differently. If it's a face-to-face situation and an online, I mean, the aim of the lesson is the same, but we need to plan differently. And I think that will be taken into consideration. I'm doing the Trinity diploma right now. It's online. So I haven't met my colleagues. I've never met the tutors, but when we plan our lessons, we plan them a bit differently. And I think I've noticed those differences. So I think that teachers too have noticed them, and that should be noted in the curriculum. So I hope that answered your questions. Yes. Did they decide, why did they decide to add an additional grade 11? So I mean, you're talking about, well, we have grades 1 to 9. Yes. Yeah, grades 1 to 9. That was a decision that was brought many years ago. So that was before we started doing any work. So we just had to incorporate that change. I'm not sure, honestly, what the reason was for that, but I know that other subjects had the same difficulties. So what we did for grade 9 is we used the previous curricula, those that were up to 2009. We adapted them, of course. We just used them for some basic groundwork. But for grade 9, we actually went up a level. So now students or learners, when they finish grade 9, they're at a B1 level, and they start high school with a B1 knowledge. But up to then, I think it was A2 plus. So we kind of added, and if you take a look at the curricula, grade 9 is drastically at a higher level from grade 8. And I think that was another thing that we had a challenge with that thing of not being hard. And those things, I wouldn't say are things that we did in a way, but those were the constraints. Those are constraints. So just getting it up a level, which means more complex grammar, because the difference from A2 to B1, the leap is significant. And they have very complex grammar structures and lexis. So I think that's visible in a way. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. John, for asking the question and your concerns, and thank you, ma'am Anita, for asking them so wonderfully.
Thank you for listening to me. So I hope I didn't go over my time. So just tell me if I'm just explaining too much, because we spent so much of our time. To be honest, it was a project that lasted a couple of years. That's why I think I'm so invested in curriculum design at the moment. That's why.
No, ma'am, you were actually superb. Moving ahead with our conference. Our next presenter for the day is Melanie Dayananda from Faculty of Graduate Studies, Sri Lankan Institute of Information Technology, Sri Lanka. A topic of research is framework for industry engagement in higher education, employability, skills development, and learners' early career progression in Sri Lankan IT industry. Her abstract is on the screen.
Hi, Sakshi. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. May I share the screen for the presentation?
Yeah. Hello, Melanie. And yes, you may proceed.
Yes, thanks. So thank you, everyone. It has been a great, for me, it's an afternoon since I'm based in Singapore. So maybe good morning to some of you and good afternoon to others. So my topic, before I begin with the topic that I did the research on, I would like to share a bit of my background as well. I have been an educator. I have been in the higher education industry for like 10 plus years now. And right now I work as a product manager education in the private sector, mostly into the skilling initiatives of the adult learners. So with that, I have done this research in partnership with Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research from Sri Lankan Institute of Information Technology. So the topic that we have researched on is that framework for industry engagement in higher education. So saying that, we have looked at multiple dimensions such as employability, skills development, and the learner's early career progression. So with that, let me take you to the introduction. So here I have taken industry engagement in higher education. So if you notice, the societal demand and the expectations from the higher educational institutes has been really increasing over the years for the knowledge production and innovation, because if you see the technology is moving, we are moving from the traditional learning and teaching methods to digitalized teaching and learning methods more and more right now. So with all these, the demand and expectation has been increased for the higher educational institutes, as well as the collaboration between the industry and the higher educational institutes have gone very I would say, upper the ceiling with different initiatives for skilling, upskilling, and reskilling. So with that, the research shows that most of the academics, they attend to collaboration for the purpose of skilling and training and development, especially as mentioned by my colleague earlier, curriculum design and delivery for improved employability skills development. So curriculum design and delivery play a big role for the learners to improve their skills in employability and early career progression as per the early research. And also, if you look at the employability or the early career progression, like we can say that early career progression um, is a method where people try to get themselves ready for the new world of work and then excel themselves in a chosen career path or the chosen career aspiration that they have. So we can, like, let's say we can define an early career professional as an individual or a group of professionals who are aspiring to be the industry leaders through the continuous improvement of knowledge, skills, and expertise. So this takes time. It's never can be done within 1 day or 2 day or even in 1 month. It takes time, but still, right now in the industry, there are two traditional methods that organizations use. One is introducing a career path, and then the second is introducing a career ladder. So with that, I have also looked into the application of this context into the ICT industry in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, ICT industry is the fourth largest export revenue generator. So if we look at the numbers, it has grown from 116 million US dollars to 968 million from 2006 to 2017. And right now, SLASCOM, which is the Sri Lankan Association of Software and Service Companies, they have stated that from 2015 to 2020 has been generating them tripled exports revenue. And at the same time, they are initializing projects to improve like 200,000 direct jobs and 1,000 startups. Similarly, ICTA, which is an independent body in Sri Lanka, which is actually having the semi-government initiatives, they are mainly looking at the digital transformation so that people and the citizen transformation towards digital citizenship is like emerged through these projects. So with that, I can show you how the employment has been improving from let's say 2003 to 2014. I know it's a bit of outdated information, but still we can have an understanding of the different sectors. ICT, non-ICT, government, and BPO has been the key areas of the employment structure in the ICT by the subsectors. So with that, the research problem that we identified is that most of these industry engagement projects or university industry partnership engagements, it does not have a clear or well-defined, well-planned or organized early career progression route for the IT graduates specifically. Of course, there are employability and employability skills development programs, but it does not distinguish a specific career in IT, say for an example, data science, or say for an example, if you take IoT, these kind of emerging technologies related career opportunities. And at the same time, there are many industry operators, organizations that are benefiting from these rigorous academic process by the academe. Universities, they try their level best to update their curriculum in, like, let's say, introduce new concepts and invest in students learning so much. But apparently the fruits of this academic process is being, I would say, taken away by the employers most of the time. So there should be some sort of a mechanism to give it back to the academe and the students. So this is one of the research elements that we have already identified through the problem. And also if you look at the employer engagement activities, it really influences the academic development and curricula, but to what extent it's being done and what are the measurements of it is not being really measured. So these are the research problems identified. With that, I have said the research objectives. Main is to develop a framework where we can understand the impact of industry engagement in the higher education to the learner's skills development, employability, and the early career progression. So with that, I have taken few sub-objectives that are directly linked back to the research questions, as you can see in the screen. So without taking much time, I will take you through the literature review. So if you look at the industry engagement, it's university and the academe on one hand. So that's one segment of the partnership. And then we have the industry. It can be corporate organizations, it can be the professional bodies, it can be the agencies that we are working for the particular industry. So these are two key elements or key players in the university industry partnership, but also we cannot avoid or we cannot neglect the fact that government also plays a bigger role in here. So researchers shows that many strategic initiatives for development and for capability development, and also broaden UI policies or university industry policies, research contributions are there in the practice already. But then again, moving forward, it also shows that industry engagement, university industry partnership, particularly in the domain that I am talking about, ICT industry, and the geographical location that I'm talking about has a lot of areas for improvement as well by looking at the research gaps. So if you look at the industry engagement, like these engagements can be in different forms. One is that we can have a higher educational institute connecting with one of the corporate organizations, or it can happen in both the ways in multiple scenarios. Say, for example, we can have multiple HEIs connected to one firm, or we can have multiple firms connected to multiple HEIs as well. So it really depends on the requirement and the size of the project. But if you look at the levels of engagement activities, we have the awareness first, and then involvement, support, sponsorship, and the strategic partnership. And also the literature shows that there are different types of university business partnerships, starting with collaboration in research and development, and then mobility of academics and mobility of students. This is more like transfer programs, knowledge sharing sessions, and then having, I would say, cross geographical transitions for academics and students to learn the new teaching and learning methods and so on. And at the same time, commercialization of R&D, research and development. So innovation is there, but it needs to be directed towards invention as well. And at the same time, as earlier mentioned by my colleague, curriculum development and delivery plays a bigger role in here, and also entrepreneurship and government involvement. So with that, I have added few of the literature review from the industry engagement in higher education in Sri Lanka, particularly. So it has university industry collaborations that fast track the sustainable growth and the trade competitiveness for the organizations. At the same time, in return, it gives much better or productive skills development initiatives and the employability skills development programs for the universities and the higher educational institutes. With that, I would take you to the industry engagement in ICT education particularly. So there has been different projects like SIDA, Learn, that interconnects the institutions from the Sri Lanka as well as from the international context. There are many international organizations who are having partnerships with local universities and local organizations in terms of providing digital transformation projects to benefit the academe. And at the same time, ICTA and ICT Industry Skills Council play a bigger role in the framework development, digitalization of government processes, human resource capacity building, and citizen empowerment and security programs as well. So with that, we can go to the early career progression of students. So if you really look at the literature, early career progression really depends on the early career talent strategy, which needs to be addressed by the employers, as well as it has a role to play by the student as well. And also the students should always have the learning mindset. And from the other hand, the employers and the universities should know how to measure the outcomes of these learning initiatives, because there are many projects all around the world by multiple tech giants and tech players. But then again, monitoring of these initiatives is also important for us to move ahead from there. And also the risks and the mitigation in relation to these tech-based products and projects is much important as well. So with that, work readiness and employability of IT graduates has been reviewed as per the literature. And also, if you look at the research, specifically the Tracer study, it shows that if we compare the state universities and non-state universities, it shows how many students were employed and how many has not been employed from the state and non-state institutions. And also here we have the employment status by the level of performance. So say for an example, if a student is having a first class, they are the ones who have secured a job that shows in green color, employed. So that rate is almost 72%, whereas others have less percentage comparatively to the first class holders. And also employment status by the academic streams. So since I'm particularly looking at the computer science and IT, it has 100% of employment in Sri Lanka. And also, if you look at the type of the degree, most of the special or honors degree holders get employed comparatively to the general 3-year degree holders. But if you look at the general 4 years degree holders, they are the ones who are having the highest employment rate. And also timing of the first employment has been high in the non-state institutions comparatively to the state universities as well. And also we have looked at the timing of the first employment based on academic stream. So if you look at computer science, that's having like nearly 28% during the university. And this confirms that time of the first time employment based on academic stream of non-state universities. If you look at the IT, it has almost 52% here. So with that, we have also looked into the early research and identified what are the skills needs and skills gap in the ICT industry. So there are technical skills required and also non-cognitive. We call it soft skills. So those skills required, and also there are different skills gaps identified in here. All these things fall into literature review, but let me show you the research methodology. So the conceptual framework has multiple independent variables and multiple dependent variables to the industry engagement. So with that, several hypotheses has been listed down, and the research process has been taken on the positivism, and it has a deductive approach, and also the quantitative method has been selected for this. So you may see a lot of I would say statistical analysis using SPSS coming up in the data analysis section of my presentation. So the population has been the target audience, or the population has been the students who have studied computer and IT science, and the total participation has been 404 from state universities and non-state universities as well. So this is how the operationalization taken place. We have identified the variables on this scale and then indicators from the literature review. And then we have considered the measurements, and then the questionnaire has been developed based on the measurement and the indicators that we have taken from the literature review. With that, I can show you the data presentation. So this has been used with a survey, and also it had a Likert scale, a 5-point Likert scale. So the participants' profile has been measured using whether they are an undergraduate or a graduate in IT, highest level of education, age, the participant's job role, etc. So if you look at this, you can see that almost 62 or like 61% of the participants are having the bachelor's qualification, and 34% are having the master's qualification in IT and computer science. And also, if you look at the graduate profile, we have 88.6 who are already IT graduates. And also based on the graduation year, we have identified that 45.5% are from the 2016 to, 2011 to 2015, and we have taken a combined analytics here with the type of higher educational institute as well. And also based on the job role, most of the participants are from the software development and also the support services. And if you look at the age, almost 66% of the participants are falling into the age category of 25 to 32, whereas 25% of participants are coming from the age of 18 to 25 who have recently started their career. With that, I have also done the reliability analysis to test the reliability of the variables that have been chosen. And the alpha values, the Cronbach alpha values has been more than the required value. So we say it's a positive reliability that we have for all the variables. And for the discriminant validity, we have also taken correlation analysis. Why we wanted to perform this? Because we wanted to make sure that we have evaluated the indicators of all the variables. So by looking at the analysis, we can confirm that none of the indicators has been removed, because all the indicators has been given a positive value to the independent or the dependent variable that we have chosen. So with that, we have taken the AVA analysis to confirm the dependencies to each variable. And with that, we have also looked at the descriptive analysis to understand how each one of these independent variables have performed in terms of data. So here we have knowledge upgradation and networking, and then we have the infrastructure development, experiential learning, and also we have entrepreneurial development, research grants and funding, and the entrepreneurial development as well. So based on these, I have added few of the hypotheses that I have been testing here, but to present you all, like there has been over like 18 hypotheses that we had to perform here. So to confirm the correlations between the independent and dependent variables, we have taken the SPSS analysis to the correlations, and it has all proven that it has a positive correlation to the independent variable for the dependent variables, which is skills development, employability, and early career progression. So with that, all the hypothesis has been accepted and null hypothesis has been rejected by the analysis. With that, we also did the regression analysis. Why? Because we wanted to test how these independent variables, especially how it relates to the skills development and also to the employability and the early career progression. So this is how we have developed the proposed framework. I know this is a bit of technical maybe, but we can have a separate framework taken for skills development, employability, and early career progression based on the descriptive analysis and the regression analysis that I have shown you a little while ago. So with that, the discussion which is really giving us the highlights is that there's a significant relationship that all these independent variables has to its skills development, employability, and early career progression. And having said that, as presented in the literature and as presented in data analysis, like we have identified that infrastructure development, knowledge upgradation and networking, curriculum design and development, experiential learning, research grants and funding, entrepreneurial learning has been the main elements of university industry partnership. So when we say infrastructure development comes as investments to improve the infrastructure or sharing the new technologies that the industry is having with the academe. So these are few of the elements of infrastructure development. It can come in a form of investment, or it can come in a form of sharing the new technologies that they have, especially the telecommunication companies, they do this. And also knowledge upgradation and networking. This has a part to play in the academic development of the faculty and also the management of the higher educational institutes. So there should be new policies involved in the knowledge upgradation and networking, and there should be more opportunities for academe to share their knowledge with the industry, and industry should be contributing also to the knowledge upgradation and networking, like what we are doing now, research conferences. And these research conferences needs to be backed by the industry players, and they can sponsor these events, and they can really improve the quality of the outcome that we can have. So with that, curriculum design and development also plays a bigger role, where we can include all the emerging technologies and continuous update of the concepts, theories, and the technologies. And ICT and computer science is changing very rapidly, so it needs to be very well organized and processed to develop the curriculum and deliver the same concepts in a timely manner. With that, experiential learning is more like flipped classroom concept as well, but it gears more towards the industrial training and also cadetships, internships. You may call it as training, or like I can refer to these different skilling initiatives, internship programs for experiential learning. It can be outside the institution or the university, and also it can be outside the employer location or the organization as well. Also research grants and funding. So this is something very known to everybody, which I don't have to explain much. It's about sponsorships, research funds and grants, etc. And also for the entrepreneurial learning, like it has different systems introduced in different countries, and we have an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and also there are different incubator programs that are being introduced. So these are the things that are being identified under university industry partnerships, specifically through this study. And with that, it also been understood that all these projects and programs that we will be introducing has a positive impact on the skills development of the students, employability, and the early career progression. So when we say skills development, it's not just the technical skills development. So if we look at IT and computer science, most of the employers are focusing more on the technical side of it, but it's not just that. It's also the people skills, leadership skills, and also supportive skills. Maybe it can be emotional intelligence, resilience, stress management, as we discussed a little while ago. So all these things needs to come into the place. These are some of the areas that are being identified through the research that the students should have as a whole person development, not only segmented as technical skills development. So with that, we can also look into these findings that reveal positive relationship between the indicators of employability and early career progression with each one of these variables. And as a result, it has been statistically evaluated and proved that all the indicators that we have identified in the internal, internal aspects of the independent variables has a significant relationship to the early career progression as an overall conclusion. So with that, the research questions and objectives has been achieved and realized. And in here, we had to determine the impact, how much it is going to affect the students or the learners' skills development. So it has proven that this is a result of the relationship between the industry, the organizations, and the university. So to evaluate that part, we have also taken different focus group discussions, and also we have taken interviews with the industry as well as with the, let's say, professional bodies in Sri Lanka to identify how they are gearing this, how they're supporting these initiatives. Unfortunate to say that, like, due to the COVID situations and also with the travel restrictions, we had a limited number of focus group discussions and also interviews, but it has really given us insights for future work and future, I would say, future research. Recommendations has been made in general to develop these partnerships based on the trust, and all these partnerships come at a strategic level. So there should be a strategic vision, strategic, I would say, plan to deliver, or like to divert these random and ad hoc university industry initiatives to make it a better and a productive element in the entire development system. So with that, we have recommended that there can be different approaches that they can take. And with that, there are specific recommendations that are made for higher educational institutes. So as educators and as the professionals being in the academe, like, we should be looking at these projects with objectives, not just a random project. So there should be project objectives, and at the end of the tenor, those project objectives or the KPIs should be really measured against the objectives that we have already set. I'm sorry about that. So with that, like, if you look at the support that the students get through these programs, we should also include the theories, new concepts, and the new ways of teaching and learning to the existing traditional methods. So it can come in a way of digital transformation, as presented earlier about the e-learning. It can really have new methods coming in as well. And also higher educational institutes should really focus on the industry engagement activities to support the skills development for the students to be future ready, be ready for the future world of work, because it's changing. Like a few I almost 3 years back, we never thought that we'll be working from home, but right now it has been a trend, and most of the employees, they, let's say, they wish, or like they prefer to be at home as a permanent setting or permanent working environment. So with that, like, there have been recommendations made for industry partners as well to leverage more on the engagement towards improving the relationships between the academe and the professional bodies, and at the same time introduce new schemes where students can be benefited. And these schemes can come in different forms. The focus can be in infrastructure development, focus can be in research and development, and also it can be related to curriculum design and delivery as well. But if you really see, there are a lot of tech giants like Microsoft and AWS. They have something like AWS Skills Builder. Microsoft is having Microsoft Learn. All these platforms are free of charge for certain courses. So students can be advised or geared towards these free courses to get themselves updated about the new technologies and so on, which is very much important for computer science and IT students. So these are like few of the very minimal recommendations that are made at the tactical level. But if you look at the strategic level, it needs more of policy planning and also development of IT industry governing bodies, the programs, and also the regulatory authority should confirm how this will impact on the return on investment as an industry. So with that, there are also taken given recommendations for the students. Mostly, if we look at the research results, it shows that students sometimes take these initiatives not so seriously. It's more like they have taken it for granted. So here we have highlighted that it's also the students' responsibility to take part in these programs and take the efforts to learn and benefit from these initiatives that the university and industry partnerships are having, which impact their personal growth. So with that, first they have to take their own test. It can be a psychometric testing, job fit testing, but if they have already chosen a career, if they have a career aspiration, better to start from there and do a job fit testing and then move ahead with a proper career path, career ladder. And then they can also need to take the ownership of the skills development and workplace readiness through the opportunities that are given to them. So this mainly concludes that the study is more towards connecting the corporate organizations, the business entities, to bring innovation and invention into learning and teaching, specifically in the higher education for IT students. With that, there have been many fruitful outcomes from the research, and for the future work we have identified, or I have identified that always the continual professional development is important. Although it's an early career professional or someone who is very well seasoned, the lifelong learning never ends. So that's why we are also participating in conferences like Terra. So the benefit that we have here is that if we can measure the continuous professional development as a high priority in lifelong learning, we also can measure how the early career progression is being supported by the continuous professional development and continuous learning. That's one area that can be considered for research in future. At the same time, based on the literature, it has been also shown that there's a very little knowledge that has been shared on relationship between the industry engagement and the early career progression, specifically in the other streams also in Sri Lanka. So maybe this can be further developed as a multidisciplinary approach where we can look into other industries as well. So these are a few of the future work that are being identified. And also this can be further open to measurements coming from the industry or the corporate sector. And also we can take the measurements from the academe, which plays a bigger role here, because it's important for us to know what are the perceptions of industry professionals and also from the professionals in the academe, because this research was only focused towards the student perception about how the university and industry engagement helps them to be employable, get themselves skilled, and also to have a better early career progression. So with that, I conclude. I'm open for the questions. Let me unshare my screen. So any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Milani ma'am. Anybody having any questions may leave in the chat section and she'll surely answer. It was indeed a super presentation, ma'am.
Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if I have taken much time than scheduled.
No. It's okay. It's all right, ma'am. You explained it very beautifully.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving ahead with our conference. Our last presenter for the day is Firman Suprijanduko, Center for Human Resource Development, National Cyber and Code Agency from Jakarta, Indonesia. His topic of research is Building Data Marts in Teaching Management, a case study in Center for Human Resource Development. His abstract is on the screen. Let's have a look at his presentation.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello, everyone. Good morning from Jakarta, Indonesia. My name is Firman from Center for Human Resource Development, the National Cyber and Crypto Agency, or BSSN, in Jakarta. Today's presentation is titled Building Data Marts in Teaching Management, a case study in Center for Human Resource Development. So this is my schedule on the seminar. As the title suggests, I'm trying to design a data mart. Thus, what is a data mart? IBM Cloud Education provides the definition. Data mart is a subset of a data warehouse. Data mart is a small version of data warehouse. It focuses on one subject only, not wide, but focus on a particular line of business or department, so that user can easily find what they are looking for, because it's very specific. Quick the research, quick the search, and don't waste time. Yes, research question. Actually, my boss is having trouble right now, having trouble managing this institution right now. She wants to be more comprehensive in managing the institution. She wants to get a valid and relevant data faster so she can make a quick decisions, the right decision, as well as our stakeholders. They also want to do data analysis with our data. They also ask, can we do some mining with this data? And research methods, this research use exploratory research method with a qualitative approach. And research objective is discuss projection of designing a data warehouse where the data source comes from 3 operational systems and end up being 4 data marts. Why data warehouse? Data warehouse is a place where data is collected. Data sources can come from 2 or more sources. It can be in the form of data from the operational system, or often called data that transacted day by day. Or it could be data sources come from various databases. In a data warehouse, all data is integrated and processed before being used by users. Now let's focus on the data marts. Oracle compare data warehouse and data mart as follows. The size of data parameter states that the data in the data warehouse is wide, usually owned by the enterprise, while the data in the data mart is supposed to be more specific and only belongs to the department. In the subject area parameters, it's a state that the data warehouse can have multiple subject area, while in data marts, only single subject area. Then the source of data that enters to the data warehouse can come from many data sources, while the specific data warehouse output is the only source of data for the data mart. Excuse me. So the data mart has limited data sources. In the data warehouse, takes up a lot of memory. Then the data mart takes up only a little memory. There is a strategy that I want to say that the data warehouse development can be done little by little, can be built slowly, according to the existing budget, built according to need. The development of the development of data marts, as well as only build up what is really needed first. Make a prioritize Then over time and the availability of fund, the construction can be completed in more detail, more specific. So this is a data warehouse architecture. We have three data sources that come from Pusbang operational system. What we mean by Pusbang is means Center for Human Resource Development. Then the data also comes from the Pusdatic operational system. Pusdatic means Center for Data in Communication and Information Technology, ICT. Lastly, flat files come from OSDM. OSDM means Bureau of Organization and Human Resources. Then the data source enter the staging area. This one is staging area in the staging column. Here is the ETL process. The data will be extracted, transformed, and loaded. ETL. In other words, before the data can be put into a data warehouse, all important data must first be properly available. Given the many things of consider, such as for business cycle, data processing cycle, hardware, computer network infrastructure, and geographical variable. In the data warehouse column, this one, usually there is a raw data, metadata, and summary data. The output will specifically go to its existing data marts, such as GF Kamsiber, which I mean data mart for the purposes of matter relating to the cybersecurity functional position. Pusbang has an obligation to manage the data as well as stakeholders in ministries, institutions, and local government as user. They need the data for the needs of the employees, for competency development purposes, for career development purposes, and so on and so on. The same goes for the different data marts, where all teaching material, tools, and application for cybersecurity training are stored. There are also lecturer profile data marts and alumni data marts. All of this data can be used for analytics, reporting, and mining purposes. Next, we have how user can access data mart. There are 4 ways user can access the data marts. First, the user use the local area network belonging to the Pusbang. The user is in the Pusbang office, in the classroom like this, or in the laboratory, or in the meeting room. Second, user can access the data mart via VPN, virtual private networks. VPN account for user will be created on demand and as needed. Third, user can access certain data marts through MOOC, Massive Open Online Courses application. We will ask the administration to add data mart features to the MOOC application so that students or head of agency in the ministry, in the regional regional governments can take advantage of this feature. Fourth, the data mart service is only for reporting purposes, can be accessed by users through the BSSN portal. BSSN means Badan Cyber and Sandi Negara, the National Cyber and Crypto Agency. Conclusion and suggestion, at least 5 reasons for using data marts. Data marts contain data from all works units divided into a single subject area. Limited data sources, limited memory usage, and less time to deploy. I designed for proposed data marts, JFK CamCyber, references data marts, lecturer profile data marts, and alumni data marts. User will utilize data marts in terms of data analytic, reporting, and mining. BSSN has the obligation to be present and play a role in government programs through the One Data Indonesia portal. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much for your attention. Gracias, terima kasih, merci beaucoup, obrigado, arigato gozaimasu, shukriya, danke, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Farman. It was a nice presentation. Before we move ahead with our conference, Ma'am Milani, there is a question. Yeah, if you have answered in the chat section. Okay, so Anita ma'am, she has answered already your question in the chat section.
Yes, hi Anita. So thank you so much for the question. Let me be very short and sweet. Of course, like we have the English language and communication skills related modules introduced to the learners, but mostly it has been only in the first year of the university or first year in their degree, whereas we have identified that language skills development is not just one-time thing. It should be something that's continuous throughout the throughout their duration in the university. So with that, in the Sri Lankan context now, the professional associations like Sri Lankan Association of software companies and also ICT Skills Development Council, they introduce different language and soft skills development programs to support the university learning. But as you said, incorporating that to the curriculum is a great thing. So that has been actually identified, and hopefully it'll be introduced in the Sri Lankan context in the near future as well. I hope I was able to answer the question, Anita. Thank you so much for the insights. Sakshi, I think, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you both of you for your interaction. Moving ahead with our conference. Okay, so thank you. With great pleasure and enthusiasm, I would like to conclude that the conference was a great success. Many people have contributed in different ways to turn this event into a smoothly running conference with very interesting presentations. This conference has resulted in good discussions and networking. I owe my gratitude to all the presenters and patient listeners, to the coordinators and the whole staff of Eurasia Research for their constant support. I would also like to thank all the universities and institutes who have sponsored our participants and people who have directly and indirectly contributed in the smooth conduct of this conference. Eurasia Research conducts conferences every month around the world. And in the month of July, we'll be having conferences in Bangkok, Budapest, and Bali. In month of August, we'll be having in Amsterdam and Barcelona. In month of September, we'll be having conferences in London and Rome. You may refer our conferences to your friends and colleagues. We have recently launched a free-for-all program for called as Terra International Summit that takes place every 3 months, and we have completed 3 successful summits, and the 4th summit will now take place on 16 August 2022. Okay, so thank you everybody, but before we come to an end, I would just like to have the feedback from your end. So starting from Ma'am Anita, your feedback regarding our conference.
Thank you very much. It was, when I looked at the topics today, I didn't think that they were so closely connected. So I think that there was a really good link between everything, which I was pleasantly surprised that we found that link, that joining thread. Thank you very much. It was really enjoyable from beginning to end.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Dr. John, your feedback, please.
Yeah, I think that was the first observation. I agree with Professor Namoska with her observation earlier. And perhaps I think I would like to recommend that for your succeeding conferences, there should be a central theme so that the participants will be able to, know from the very beginning what they would expect. Because as I have attended the conference, I thought we'll be focusing on education per se, like the approaches, the methodologies, or whatsoever. I was surprised that we also have here the research from Mr. Chang, which I truly appreciate. And the diversity of the topic is good, but I think for each conference there should be a central theme that the participants could anticipate, so that they would be totally engaged in. As you know, participants involved because they would like to improve their expertise in that certain field, or perhaps they would like to expand their knowledge on that certain area. So I would truly appreciate if you could have a central theme for your next conferences. That would be all on my part. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your suggestions, and we'll surely look on it. Milani, ma'am, your feedback.
Hi, Sakshi. Thank you so much.
Hello.
This has been my second time with Eurasia. First time it was with Berlin, and this time I'm here again. I have gone through 2 conferences right now, and I see that from my end, it's really a platform for us also to update ourselves and learn ourselves in the areas of teaching and learning, not being particular about the area of work that I'm being into, but also it has also provided me the opportunity to learn from different parts of the world, as well as different focus areas and different, I would say, expertise coming into the platform. So I think for me, the diversity has added value. And then, of course, if it's a bit focused, as Dr. John mentioned, yes, that's true, but I also value the diversity. So we learn new things as well. So that's my view about it. And at the same time, like, of course, I appreciate the time taken for the like introductions and all that, but also it would be really helpful for us to understand the process much better, like when the research paper would be published and so on, because I joined with such a short notice. I think it was almost close to the deadline. So maybe if you can add more information to the website, I think that will be really helpful. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and it really added value to myself. And I believe that it really gave me an opportunity to learn from each other. So thank you so much. My only recommendation is add more information to the website so that we can get further information in advance. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll also consider your point as well.
Yeah.
Shang, your feedback, please.
Yes, I feel so enjoyed that. This time is my first time to attending international conferences, so I feel I learned a lot from here. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shang, and thank you, everybody. It was wonderful interacting with you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.